Welcome to today's regularly scheduled council meeting for Monday, September the 10th, the year 2018. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Maldonado. Present. Franciski.
Present.
Walker.
Present.
Vasquez.
Present.
Garcia.
Present.
Orange.
Present.
Perez.
Present.
Monroe.
Present.
Medina.
Present. First item on the agenda,
Minutes of the Common Council, minutes August 27, 2018.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilwoman Walker. To hear the minutes for Monday, August 27th. Any questions? Roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Next item.
Communications from the mayor. None. Communications from department heads. Accounts payable warrant 091018 CC.
So move, Mr. President. Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Franciski, properly second by Councilman Monroe, to hear accounts payable warrant 091018 CC. Any questions on that motion? Roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 091018 LA.
So move.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilwoman Vasquez, properly second by Councilwoman Maldonado, to hear accounts payable warrant 091018 LA. Questions on that motion? Roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Next item.
Accounts payable warrant 091418 CC.
So move.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Monroe, properly seconded by Councilwoman Walker, to hear accounts payable warrant 091418 CC. Questions on that motion? Roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Franciski.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, motion carries.
Payroll warrant miscellaneous 082418.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilman Monroe, to hear payroll warrant miscellaneous 082418. Questions on the motion? Councilman Garcia.
Yes, Ms. Bennett, I got a question for you. This year, more than previous years, I see more payroll warrant miscellaneous. What is that?
To be honest with you, I'd have to look at it to see. I haven't even looked at the payroll, but I'd be glad to if you want me to.
Yes. Val, you got the question? Just trying to see if it's.
Oh, this is the vendor. Yeah, these are vendors.
You'd have to pull it to see more detail.
This is this particular one is a payroll check for Dr. Z, the utility director. And I'd have to go back and find out exactly why it was a special one, but it just talks about it being his pay.
We'd have to pull the paperwork
Yeah.
that goes with it.
Let me see what
Garcia.
Yeah, Mr.
The other
President, and the only reason I say, because we've been seeing it more and more, and I know if it's his pay, it should be under the regular monthly, or
Oh, the second one,
instead of, you
the
got two
one for
miscellaneous.
$160,000 is the bonus. So the one for $160,000 is the bonus that we just paid out.
Okay.
That's what you're authorizing.
If we could also put that on there, so we have less questions next time.
Okay. Well, by the way, it does say it on the inside. I'm sorry. We can have that, but in the pay category, it says for bonus, it gives the account number.
Yeah, on the doctor, can you let me know?
You want to put it out here?
Yeah,
Okay.
Can you let me know what
We'll
you're
have
doing
them
on the
do that.
doctor?
Okay?
That's all, Mr.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Roll call to accept payroll miscellaneous 082418.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Next item.
Payroll warrant miscellaneous 083118.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilwoman Maldonado. Here payroll warrant miscellaneous 083118. Any questions on that motion? Roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Payroll warrant monthly 083118.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilwoman Vasquez to hear payroll warrant monthly 083118. Questions on that motion? Roll call.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes. Motion carries. Do we have any committee reports? Do we have any board reports? Madam Clerk, next item.
Ordinance 18-0015, Sanitary District Budget 2019.
So moved on first reading, Mr. President.
Second. Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilman Monroe. To hear on first reading, ordinance 18-0015. Questions on the motion? Councilman Garcia.
Yes, I see with Mr. Bennett here. Is our tax levy going up?
Pardon?
Is our levy going up, tax levy?
The growth factor will go up, I think it's 3.4% for the year. We won't, because we are still not able to collect our maximum levy. We still won't benefit entirely from that, but what additional tax dollars we would get from any growth factor would let us collect a little more funds.
So,
And by the way, if we don't advertise for it, we lose it. So we'll always advertise for the maximum levy, so that if in fact a company came here with a large AV, or we had some big growth factor, we would then be able to grow our maximum levy.
it's going to be raised for the residents also, correct?
Well, it really, because we're offsetting it with AV growth from BP, the tax rate technically, now, it may go up for the county or it may go up for somebody else. Our tax rate should not go up at all, or if it is, it might be just a penny or two. I mean, it will not be significant. Because remember, everybody in East Chicago basically is already capped. So even if it goes up, unless their assessed value goes up from the assessor, they won't pay any more funds. Now, there has been, my understanding is that the assessor has raised some home values, and so, but you should have got a notice of that, and they have a right to appeal. But that would be the only reason that they would be paying more taxes.
Mr.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes. Steve, can you just validate everything he just said?
I would agree with Mr. Bennett that your assessed values have continued to increase. BP was helping us a bunch over the last year. That has diminished, but your assessed values have generally also continued to increase, which is putting a lid on the property tax rate.
What,
So instead of the property tax rate continuing to rise, the property tax rate is staying very, very flat.
Okay, because this is on the sanitary district.
It is, but I can speak to both city and sanitary.
Okay.
You can take the maximum growth factor of 3.4%, and you're still going to see a very low property tax rate.
Any further questions?
Mr. Bennett, the tax collection, what is the percentage of what we're getting back? What we got in May?
Well, based on that, we're in the high 80s or low 90s, but we knew we weren't going to collect 100% because you've got the tax caps.
Never did.
So I'll give you an example. And before the BP expansion, and we had the 1, 2, 3, we were collecting about $19,000 or $19 million a year in the general fund. Our budget was 30-some million. In fact, it was 40 million at one time. So we couldn't collect most of that. So that's when they were subsidizing using gaming money to make up the difference in the funds. We're now up to collecting, I estimate this year, probably close to 31 million in property taxes based on that. But you also have to remember that we're probably in the last year, I think there may be one more year of the BP abatement coming off, and then we'll pretty much flatline. But we're collecting about 30 to 31 million dollars, which to us, if you take out the caps, are pretty close to 100%. If you take out the cap impact, because people are getting sent a bill for, let's say, $1,200, they may only be paying $900. So we get a report on that, and I'll tell you where you could, in the budgets, in the copies of the budgets that were sent out to you, there's called 16-line statements in there, and under the general fund, which should be, I think it's the second one after casino. Yeah. Well, it doesn't have it in here. When the state certifies the budget to us, huh?
It's at the bottom of the system.
Oh, it's at the bottom instead of the top? Okay, I'm sorry. It's the numbers put in there that tells us, well, they're estimating that our shortfall will be about $5 million in property tax collection, if you look at that number. Now, I would tell you there's two problems with that number. The first is that Lake County is the only county where 100% of the income tax collected goes to the county, and then it feeds down to us by property tax relief. and that just skews these numbers somewhat. Last year, the state came out and did an alternative property tax shortfall for Lake County, and it was still off, but it was closer, and I'd have to verify this number. But that tells you, when we get the final 16-line statement, and that they adopt our budget, they will have an amount in there that we should collect, and then they'll have an amount that they believe we will not collect, and they'll have a net number. And that's what we've always budgeted by, is a net number. So we plan on basically the shortfall that we're going to receive.
Councilwoman Orange.
So BP, from my understanding, is getting ready to do a major expansion. Will that impact us at all?
I want to thank John for checking on that. I mentioned that at the Finance Committee hearing, and said that they had announced they were going to do a $300 million improvement. I saw a note from John, or there was some conversation with John. The $300 million improvement supposedly is just on the whiting side, and it is exempt because it's air quality and stuff to do with that they're not charged for, so the growth factor will not affect us.
There's no additional assessed value that we'll be able to capture.
They're allowed to do these air quality improvements and stuff like that are not taxable. And so they're telling us that's not going to happen. There was some discussion that they might be doing some other improvements, but we've not heard anything about that lately.
They
So,
won't be coming before us.
so we don't anticipate any growth from that at all.
Any further questions for Mr. Bennett? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, roll call for ordinance 18-0015 on first reading.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Franciski,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Next item.
Ordinance 18-0016, East Chicago Civil City Budget 2019.
So move on first reading, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Councilman Garcia, properly second by Councilwoman Vasquez, to hear ordinance number 18-0016. Questions on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Yes, I see the different format that we had last year. I see where you have adopted budget on the parks, you got 3.5, then adopted tax levy, you got 3 million
I'm sorry,
on the first page.
yes? What, I missed your question, Councilman.
Adopted budget and adopted tax levy.
Well, this is the format now that's being done through Gateway. I mean, we literally just print the forms off.
So,
Uh,
why is like that? So,
Well, I mean, what they,
Jim, I think you guys know the difference between the budget column and
I'm sorry. The budget column is the budget that's authorized for the departments and agencies to spend. The levy, and you'll see there's a bunch of zeros, the levies are only in the funds where there's a property tax involved. So the advertisement, again, of the adopted tax levy is we're adopting the maximum levy we can adopt, and then, we'll go from the collection. So the adopted levy is just the first column amount of budgets, that's what we have the authorization to spend. The next one is the authorization to collect the tax levy necessary to support those budgets, if there's a levy required. As an example, in gaming, that's all coming from gaming revenues, there is no tax levy. In general fund, our maximum levy, if you add all that together, is about 37.59, that's authorized by the state. We won't collect that. Like I said, we'll probably collect around 31 million, maybe 32 at max, next year. So that's how that's broken down.
also on the adopted tax rate here, the general budget is most of it at 2.5, correct? So then by reading this, the next big department is the park department at 0.2, correct?
Yeah, it's, what it would be is the $2.50 tax rate. If you look up at, I don't draw my glasses. There's the assessed value, Councilman, that we use to advertise with, and I always drop the assessment because if a big plant would close or BP would announce they're going to shut down for something, we wouldn't collect the taxes on that AV. So if we advertised a tax rate, they take the lesser of the two. So if the tax levy is okay, but the tax rate, because your AV isn't going to beat that, you can only adopt up to that tax rate. That tax rate may not raise the levy. So to make sure that doesn't happen, we lower the assessment intentionally. And then when it gets to the state level, the state comes in, they now have the county certified assessed value and they know the appeals. So therefore they put that back in and they adjust that in what's called the 1782. And the 1782 is a notice that we get just before they adopt the budget that says, here's what we're going to give you. If you think that's okay, let us know. If you've got a problem, show us why it's wrong. And then we get that, and normally we just sign off on it because we've worked when they have to come up to that number through hearings with the state.
Is part of this number here, because I know, I think you sent us through email paper, they want to spend $9 million in the parks in the next 4 years.
That's a capital plan that was probably sent out. I didn't send that out, but I think there was one sent out that talks about a capital plan for parks.
Is that just a plan or wish list? Or
It's a wish list, basically.
I talked to the mayor about that. Basically, he said that's probably a wish list.
Yeah.
But part of that wish list, has some of that's been done already or started to be done? So
Whatever was allocated for this year, I mean, and I didn't see the list, Councilman, but I believe that's going forward, 19 forward, I think.
and that's what I say. Is that the reason that rate's so high at 0.2?
Well, if you remember last year, the park rate we had in here, if you remember, that's one of those that reverted back and we lost a part of the levy. And so what we've done is just put the budget back as it was originally from last year, and basically we've let the levy come back up to meet that need.
Also, Mr. President?
Continue.
Mr. Bennett, also on that last meeting that we had, there was projected bonus probably coming in March or April. $1,500. Percentage-wise, what is that? Is that like 2%, 3%? What is that?
It would depend on the salary, and I mean, I could get back with you on, if you want me to compare it to some salary, I'll be glad to. I mean, it's just a percentage of a total salary. Again, as I said back then at the Finance Committee hearing, those are based on the fact of what we believe the savings to be as of March. In other words, we watch the first quarter expenses and projected expenses and payroll, and then we come back and say, we believe that we'll save this much at the end of the year. We may have had some cash at the end of the year. We can apply to that, and that's how we build in what we believe are the bonuses, whether it's 500, in March and June and whatever, or whether it's only 2 a year. Those are all decisions that are made in March after we've looked at it. So we base that on what we believe the savings will be in the year. In other words, open positions, things we're not going to fill, those kind of savings that we get to the end of the year, plus what cash we might be able to come up with.
Mr. Dalton?
Could you please go to the podium? Thank you. Yes.
And while you're doing that, I'll pass this.
Thank you. Steve, good evening.
Good evening.
The city's been blessed the last 2 years. We've been having $10 million surplus, correct?
We have maintained a very solid surplus, in excess of $10 million at some points.
What's your projection for next year?
With this budget, I see that you are prepared to pass a structurally balanced budget, so that you would not be adding nor subtracting from the bottom line. This appears to be a very balanced, revenues balancing out with expenditures.
Project another surplus?
what I would project is that you maintain the surpluses that you end up with at the end of 2018. You passed sizable additional appropriations early this year, and I don't know the projection of what the cash balance would be at the end of this year. I bet it will be less than $10 million because we've committed to spending quite a bit in capital improvements. But if it's $5 million at the end of this year, I would project that you would still have $5 million 1 year later.
When would you be able to roughly know?
I could tell you what we looked like at the end of this month when I get the 9-month report. I can tell you what it looked like at the end of June, but that's not probably as good a set of numbers. It's a little dated at this point. 9-month report's probably a good set of numbers.
Okay. If you could get that to us, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councilwoman Orange.
I just have one question. Mr. Bennett, under the adopted tax levy, you have $50,000 in for the fire pension. What's the difference that? That's because of the state? Or why is that and not in the police pension fund?
Oh, for several years now, here's how the pension funds are supposed to work. The state pays all the pensions. We're required to pay the legal fees, attorney, the secretary to the board, and incidental small expenses. We've set aside usually in each fund $25,000 to $50,000 to cover any of those kind of expenses. In the case of the police department, they've had surpluses in the pension distribution, so we haven't needed the levy. In the fire, it's because of payouts and so on, there hasn't been a balance. In fact, I think we ended up 1 year negative. We have to correct that with the state pension. We needed to put this 50,000 in because we didn't have any local funds available for spending. We do on the other side. Now, next year, you'll probably see the police pension have to have a small levy. But the pensions are basically paid by the state. We just have to pay some of the administrative expenses. So we minimize what that number is because we don't have to spend it.
Any further questions?
Mr. President, could I just ask Mr. Bennett one question?
Sure, if you approach the podium.
Jim, could you just explain a couple, and probably the Form 3 is the easiest place to look at it, where you've made changes to the units that are getting property tax levy? Remember, we're adding redevelopment, you've done a
Yeah.
good size increase to parks, there's just some changes in the.
Well, and by the way, this will explain that.
Right. There's only like 2 changes.
If you would look, I just passed this out. This is, now, by the way, I extended this to legal this year because I couldn't even read it last year.
I brought my cheaters.
Yeah, everybody, yeah. We've got the small ones if you want a small one, but then you really need cheaters. And by the way, I'm right in between, so I'll try and use without it. This is the comparison if you look at the front page, the comparison by department, by series. In other words, remember, 100 is salaries, 200 is supplies, 300 is contractual or other debt obligations, and then 400 is capital. And so if you look at the budgets, the top group is the general fund by department and then the fund totals, and it's the comparison between 18 and 19 after the amended budget. Remember, we came back in January and amended the budget. So this is comparable so that you can see the increase and decreases by department and by series. If you go to the bottom half of that first page, it's other funds, casino, Lowett Public Safety, lease rental. Lease rental is our debt payment for the public safety facility. You've got the pension funds, local road and street, MBH, fire, parks. So you can see the variables in the departments. And again, I could go through each one of those, and I will if you want me to, but I thought it'd give you a quick overview. If you go to page 2, that's the balance of most of the variable departments, some of the TIF funds. The TIF funds basically go back to the TIF, for TIF bond payments. Third page finishes it off with summer use, public works, the others lift, special distributions, and redevelopment education. And then the bottom one is the sanitary district, so you can see the differences between last year and this is the sanitary district. So this is the breakdown that we normally provide. Again, if you have any questions, I think everybody's got my contact information, and I'll be glad to go over it with you or talk to you about it then.
Councilman Garcia?
And if you want to talk about specifics in here, I'll be glad to.
Just to add to that, I was going to bring it up under new business, but I was planning to have a finance meeting September 18th.
I think
Want to ask my fellow councilmen if they have any questions on the information that we got today. Come ready that day to ask Mr. Bennett.
September the 18th?
Yes. And then,
What time will that be, Councilman?
Ellie, are we open at 5? Can we have it at 5 o'clock?
So that's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, yes.
Next Tuesday.
I have to ask Vivian, she has a calendar.
I want to try to shoot for 5 o'clock. But I just asked my fellow council, is any questions, come prepared to ask any questions that day, and be ready to find out what's going on. I asked you, Jim, to please bring all the TIF information, because I'm really interested in all of that information there.
I'm sorry.
I'm interested in all the TIF information.
All the TIF information? Yep.
Yes. But September 18th at 5 o'clock here in the council chambers. So
Okay.
I ask all my fellow councilmen to bring all the questions you can.
Well, good. That'll give everybody a chance to look at this. If you got any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer.
And that's the reason I asked for the 18th, that everybody could go through this. If they have any questions, they could call you up.
Okay.
They call
Yep.
Ms. Gomez up. And then they could bring them to the meeting also.
Because I think, aren't you scheduled for like the 8th of October for the second reading or something?
At the next meeting, we'll do the second reading of public hearing.
September 24th will be our next regular meeting. We should have a public hearing prior.
Yeah, there's a public hearing on
24th.
the 20. But then is it October 8th you want to adopt? I will not be in town on October the 8th.
We have our city controller here.
Huh?
We have our city controller here.
If there's, again, I'm just giving you a head start. Normally these are held a little bit later. You know, we tried to come back to you guys, and I'd already scheduled to be out of town.
I'm pretty sure between.
I'm going to be up in the top of UP someplace.
Well, hopefully we can have everything straightened out
Okay,
before the
I hope
third,
we can.
before the third reading.
Okay,
Do
thank
we
you.
have any further questions for Mr. Bennett? With none said, Madam Clerk, first reading only, ordinance number 18-0016.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, that motion carries. Next item.
We do not have any ordinances on second reading and no ordinances on third reading. And we do not have any resolutions.
With that, I'll open the floor to old business. The floor is open to old business. Councilman Garcia.
Yes, Councilman Perez, I know due to emergency, you had to cancel that meeting, your public safety meeting. Do you plan to have another one?
I am, as soon as I get with Vivian on the schedule to see what's the availability of the council chambers.
Go ahead.
And just with that information there, if I could ask Elida or Attorney Buscemi, I'd like to know who's on the police merit board and who appoints, and also on the civil service board also. Yeah, the fire commission, yeah. We short policemen, and I'm hearing conflicting stories that everybody's pointing the finger at everybody. And our job is to try to straighten that out. So if we could find out who's on the police merit board and who appoints, we could get down to quit the finger pointing who's responsible. Mr. President,
Continue.
If I can continue, like I said, a finance meeting September 18th at 5 PM here. Please be ready with questions, the Finance Committee. Also, Elida, if you could send the mayor a letter, please, through my meeting that I had with him. He said he was not aware of the bulletproof vests that were expired on a lot of our policemen. Last Monday, they started getting fitted for new police vests, and that's a plus. But they get new police vests, which is good because the other ones, they were expired for a while. So I want to thank them for taking that up in a real quick manner.
Great. Any further old business? Move on to new business. Do we have any new business? Elida, to whom it may concern, can you put a request in to have a microphone placed at the desk to your immediate right? So when these gentlemen are speaking, they could be recorded. We're having problems with the minutes. Any new business? None? Public expression? Mr. John Bukata. 3 minutes, sir.
Timing. Good evening, Council. My name is John Bakota. I live at 4119 Bering. I come before the Council asking to pass an ordinance to make the 4100 block of Bering a resident parking only. We have students parking there from the school. They're there at 8 o'clock in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. One day I counted 15 cars. This morning there were 8. A gentleman lives in the middle of the block, is homebound, a visiting nurse, comes to the house. She had to park on 142nd. Later in the day, a physical therapist came and had to carry his equipment from 142nd to the middle of the block. So it's not just a parking problem. It's a, service industry problem. And also with winter coming, if we get a snowfall during the day and the plows are called out, they wouldn't be able to clean to the curb. So when the homeowner came home, they'd have to clean that all out too. The school has 3 large parking lots, adequate parking. I don't understand why they insist on parking there. I did call the police. They says that he can't do anything until signs are posted. I called the engineering department to put signs up. They said they can't do anything till the council issues an ordinance, and then they'll follow up with that. I talked to my councilwoman, Maldonado, and she assures me that she will sponsor a ordinance, and so I just want to impress on you that I did get signatures from the people that live on the block, and a couple of them approached the kids, and the kids were polite enough. I'm not saying that there was an argument, but the next day they're back again, so thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.
Do we have any more comment cards? The chair will now accept the motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, roll call.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Francisco.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Cortez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes, meeting is adjourned.